Hey friends, welcome to the channel. If you want to know what I did in 2023 in terms of language learning and what my plans are for 2024, keep watching. Los geht's! My name is Dustin. I'm an IT project manager from Germany, and on this channel we create content that helps us be more productive, to learn new things, especially languages, and to live a happier and more fulfilling life. Today we're going to review my language learning progress in 2023. For that we'll have a look at the numbers. So how much time I've spent learning, what I did from a high-level perspective, otherwise the video would be an hour long, and what level my languages have achieved by now. Last but not least, I give a high-level outlook for 2024. Alright, let's dive into today's hour. First, a nice sip of coffee, of course. Los geht's! Well, basically I spent all my free time learning languages and also every free minute in between. The majority of my learning has been passively listening to content, but there's been also some active studying. More on that later. Also, remember that we are only looking at the hours spent in 2023, not all the time I've spent the years earlier. So as you can see, throughout the year there has been quite some fluctuation of time spent. Whenever I've been on vacation or traveling, you see a dip, which has been around April and May as well as in September. Basically, I've learned all the languages every day except English, which I didn't work on actively, but I've still used it on a daily basis in my job and also consumed content in English without tracking it. You can also see that I've tracked something called language, which is basically learning about learning languages. Just like you, I'm watching YouTube videos about that and reading articles and books to always improve and also use that knowledge to provide more value to you within my videos. It's important to always try out new stuff and see what works for you and what not. Now let's come to the active languages, and we'll start with the one that I completely failed at school. I have been the worst in class and barely nothing has sticked. For me, the classical schoolbook approach didn't work, but back then I also didn't realize how much fun and how useful it could be to learn languages. Only later I discovered the theory of comprehensible and compelling input by Stephen Krashen, and that in order to assimilate a language, you need to consume massive amounts of content that is interesting for you in specific and also at the right level for you to be understood. I'm of course talking about French. Beautiful language with a beautiful sound but a terrible orthography that hasn't been properly reformed in a long time. I've spent in total almost 290 hours, mainly reading and listening to content of various kinds by using my most favorite app LingQ, but also just a free podcast app and paper books as well as series and movies. When it comes to language production, I also practice speaking on italki once every second week or so for an hour, and I also did a little bit of writing with ChatGPT. According to the CEFR, the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, my level should be around a C1 level when it comes to understanding the language, since I can basically just read and listen to most of the things without translations. Still, I'm not perfect, and my speaking skills are probably at a B2 level because I'm not speaking that much. I haven't tested myself, this is just an estimate. If you want to know more in detail, then watch this video here. The next language is with 456 hours, the language that I've spent the most time with in 2023. I'm of course talking about Italian, and I'm learning it because we have friends from Italy and also try to regularly go visiting them. This language has really become something special for me and I really want to achieve a high level of fluency. I've read, listened and watched a lot of content, from podcasts over YouTube videos to books and audiobooks. Further, I've also worked almost daily on the language with Speakly to learn new phrases and words in context. Besides that, I've played through the learning game LingQ Legend, which I've also tested on this channel. Further, I've practiced speaking on average for about an hour per week, and my skills with Italian are comparable to French, since I have a lot of positive synergies between the languages, after having overcome the confusion and interference at the beginning, of course. I can just grab a book now from a shelf and read it, even complex ones. But of course I don't understand each tiny detail, and I still feel that I can improve a lot. My speaking skills are good, but sometimes when I try to build complex phrases with multiple tenses and so on, I can trip and make errors. And of course the tiny details where I still make many errors. If you want to see more in detail what I did, have a look at this video here. With about 340 hours, my second most practiced language has been Dutch, which I initially picked up because I live close to the Dutch border and I always liked the sound of the language as well as the people from the Netherlands. It's also lots of fun and very easy to learn because of my German and English. Same as with the other languages, I've consumed lots of content of all kinds. Other than that, I've tested Bubble, plowing my way through all the available available material, as well as doing some shadowing exercises. But I've procrastinated a bit on those and just recently picked them up again, because I found them to be super useful. I haven't really started to deliberately do speaking practice like I do for the other languages, except for some casual conversations that I have with friends. Nevertheless, my comprehension is very good and probably at a C1 level already, since I can also just grab books from a shelf and easily consume native speaker content without translations. When it comes to speaking, I can't tell much about that skill since I haven't really evaluated it. I definitely need to make another progress update video soon about Dutch, but I also link the last one here. And then with 323 hours close behind Dutch comes Spanish, which I only started to learn in 2023. So that number is the time I've spent in total. And I have to say, for such a small number, I'm already quite far. Again, I can really notice the synergies with the other Romance languages. But since I'm pretty new with Spanish, there's still a lot of interference, especially from Italian, since there are so many similarities. I started learning Spanish as usual with drops to get some exposure to the sound and intonation, as well as to build up some really basic vocabulary. Then I also did the LingQ Super Sprint Challenge, which I've also reviewed thoroughly for the channel. In parallel to that, and also after, I did my regular consumption of comprehensible and compelling input of all kinds, but mainly using the app LingQ, as well as listening to podcasts freely. I completely forgot, I also played a language learning adventure called Pedro's Adventures in Spanish, which has been super cool. And last but not least, I'm still working my way through Language Transfer, which is the best free language learning app, or to be more precise, program, if you ask me. I procrastinated a bit on that, but now I'm back on track. Oh, and I also just tested recently Jive World for Spanish. My comprehension is already quite far and maybe at a lower B2 level. I haven't done active speaking exercises, but had smaller conversations with friends, and I can make myself understood. But I can't wait for really starting to do some deliberate speaking exercises. Here's also my last update. And there's also a little surprise. You can see that in September I've picked up a new language, which is Turkish, but I haven't seriously worked on it so far. 12 hours and 4 months is by no means sufficient. For me, it's only to get used to the pronunciation a bit and to keep up my streak at drops, which is, as mentioned, one of the apps I'm using to work on my vocabulary and, as mentioned, also the pronunciation. More on that here if you're interested. Oh, and I dabbled a bit in Busuu again to check how the app has developed since the last time I've used it. But I really can't wait to dive into Turkish, and I have already some apps and programs that I want to try out. Videos about that will follow, and also an official kickoff once I really start to take it seriously. So we'll proceed working on the language that we have just reviewed and the goals that I've already set myself before 2024. I really need to stop starting and start finishing before I can start something new. Especially with Dutch and Spanish, I want to achieve solid speaking skills to be able to get by. I have already a solid basis on which I can build on, and relatively few hours speaking should go already a long way. Of course, I can't expect perfect fluency by that. Once that is done, I would really like to take on Turkish, which would be the most challenging language to learn for me so far. And a good experiment to try out some techniques that I haven't tried out before, really using a completely different approach than my usual one. We should never stop learning and trying out new things. What I also would like to do is to challenge myself by learning something completely different than languages. And I've mentioned that already in an older video. For that, I found that there's a 30-day banjo challenge on YouTube, and I think it would be a blast to do that. Music is a domain that I've only scratched at the surface when I was younger, but which really could teach me a lot. There's also a language transfer course about music theory. And then something that drove me a bit mad is that I got a Steam Deck, but basically almost never really used it. That's a shame, and I would really like to play some video games to also work on my languages. Maybe some role-playing games also. Especially dialogue-heavy games are very utile to have fun while also improving your comprehension skills in a foreign language. And then, overarching all of that, I need to get back my focus and increase my attention span. I probably went too hard on the all-language learning approach by filling every free minute with learning activities and working on each and every language every day. Maybe it'll be better to do short and intense sprints on a specific skill of a language, like for example speak for X days in a row for 1 hour per day a certain language. This I want to change to better focus and increase my attention span again. Trying to keep up with all the YouTube videos that come out in different languages is also really stressing me out, and even though I'm improving my language skills, it leaves me exhausted at times. I want to consume slower media and have longer strips of thought. I want to think deeper, digging deeper into topics, especially nowadays. So many people think they know so much about each and everything, but often we haven't considered all the different sides and angles a subject should be looked at. That also happened to me and is still happening, and that's very frustrating. For that, in the past, meditations have helped me tremendously and are something I want to integrate into my days again. But I have to confess that it has never been harder for me to just sit still and do nothing, focusing only on my breath. I haven't mentioned it, but it's important to define tangible goals that are ideally smart, as well as having the right routines and habits in place to work towards them. So in conclusion, I have worked a lot on my languages in 2023, and I will also proceed to do so in 2024, but also give my mind time to reflect and do nothing. In addition, I'll use short sprints to work on specific activities and to force myself out of my comfort zone. I'll work on increasing my focus and attention span again by starting to meditate, as well as having fewer context switches and digging deeper for a more prolonged amount of time into specific topics. Please let me know in the comments what your plan is for 2024. What language are you tackling? And also, what in terms of your learning style you want to improve? If you found the video useful, please leave me a like and a subscription to the channel, and to not miss anything going forward, click also on the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and see you the next time.